The Iran-Israel issue is far more complex than it appears on the surface. While Iran today strongly asserts that Israel has no right to exist, Iran's supreme leader Ayatollah Khomeini had declared Israel an enemy of Islam, calling it the Little Satan. However, back in 1950, Iran was the second Muslim country after Turkey to extend recognition to Israel as an independent state. Historically, the two countries shared a quiet yet significant partnership. From discreet allies and business collaborators to ideological enemies, the Iran-Israel relationship has undergone many transformations. To understand this evolution, we need to go back to the time of Israel's creation. In 1947, Iran was among the 13 countries that opposed the United Nations partition plan for Palestine. However, once Israel was established in 1948, Iran pragmatically shifted its approach. During the rule of Mohammad Shah Raza Pahlavi, the two nations developed a behind-the-scenes relationship. Geography and shared security interests brought them closer, especially in the face of rising pan-Arab nationalism and Cold War dynamics. In 1957, Mossad helped establish and train Iran's secret police, SAVAK, strengthening the Shah's internal security. Economically, Iran became a key supplier of oil to Israel, especially during Arab embargoes. The Eilat-Ashkelon pipeline allowed Iranian oil to reach Europe via Israel, bypassing the Suez Canal. By the 1970s, ambassadors were exchanged, and Israeli firms actively operated in Iran. This cooperation was in line with Israeli Prime Minister David Ben-Gurion's periphery doctrine, which sought non-Arab allies like Iran, Ethiopia, and Turkey to counterbalance Arab hostility. Iran in turn saw Israel as a strategic counterweight to competing Arab powers. But this alignment collapsed dramatically after the 1979 Islamic Revolution. Led by Ayatollah Khomeini, the new regime in Tehran adopted a radically different foreign policy. Just weeks after the revolution, in February 1979, Iran severed ties with Israel and transferred the Israeli embassy in Tehran to the Palestine Liberation Organization. From that point onward, Iran framed Israel not just as a political adversary but as an ideological enemy, referring to it only as the Zionist entity. Yet beneath this official hostility, covert cooperation continued. During the 1980s Iran-Iraq War, Israel reportedly supplied Iran with arms worth up to $500 million annually. This assistance, despite Khomeini's rhetoric, reflected strategic necessity as both nations viewed Saddam Hussein's Iraq as a common threat. This acceptance of Israeli arms highlights the gap between Iran's revolutionary ideology and pragmatic survival. Iran at that time refrained from aligning with either the US or the Soviet Union during the Cold War, and instead focused on exporting its Islamic ideology, cultivating a regional network centered on opposition to Israel and the West. In the following decades, Tehran developed a regional network of allied groups, including Hezbollah in Lebanon and later Hamas in Palestine, aimed at countering Israeli influence and deterring US presence. This network, later termed the Axis of Resistance, over time, Iran's calls for Israel's destruction became more explicit. Israel, meanwhile, grew increasingly alarmed by Iran's nuclear program and regional influence. And the coming followed targeted assassinations like of Iranian nuclear scientists to sabotage operations airstrikes on Iranian-linked targets in Syria and elsewhere. In June 2025, Israeli airstrikes reportedly targeted critical Iranian facilities, marking a new peak in tensions. The United States, Israel's main ally, reinforced this pressure through military aid and sanctions. The collapse of the 2015 nuclear deal, or JCPOA, following US withdrawal, eliminated a key diplomatic framework and intensified confrontation. Both nations have contributed to this escalation. Iran's nuclear ambitions, support for proxies, and aggressive rhetoric have destabilized the region. Israel's preemptive strikes, covert actions, and diplomatic hardline approach have further strained any possibility of dialogue. What we see today is not a simple case of ideological disagreement, but a long and tangled history shaped by geopolitical shifts, strategic interests, and deeply embedded narratives. At its core, the Iran-Israel conflict is about survival. for both states in their own ways. Like, share, and subscribe the Geo Frontline.